Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. Today is the birthdays of both Mother Angelica and Adolf Hitler. I wanted to pen this piece putting Mother and Hitler in dialogue. It's a fictional dialogue. This in no way defines the Church's dogmatic teaching on final judgment or the four last things. I mention that because it takes place in the fictional limbo of a soul between passing beyond the veil and before particular judgment. This is the place that C.S. Lewis devised in The Great Divorce. It's one of my favorite books. In the darkness of this limbo, we find Adolf Hitler entrenched in darkness, his feet planted so firmly that they were almost sunken into the ground. An obstinate steeliness was across his disposition. Mother Angelica descended from heaven into the dim region where Adolf Hitler had enclosed himself within his own chosen ruin. A white radiance opened above the grey waste, and Mother Angelica came down through it. Hitler lifted his face slowly. So, heaven sends a nun. Mother looked at him. Heaven sends mercy, and you still greet it like an insult. Mercy arrived late for Europe, Hitler replied. Mercy came often, she said. You jailed it and mocked it and shot at it, and then wrapped your revolt in banners and called the whole spectacle your destiny. Hitler turned away. History belongs to the victorious. Mother Angelica moved nearer. Then let us speak of victory, because your 1,000 years collapsed into a bunker and a pistol and a terrified finale, whereas Christ rose and his church endured, and one poor nun in Alabama reached the nations with a chapel and a camera and the gospel. Hitler retorted, You compare broadcast religion with statecraft. She replied, I compare your vanity with grace. One changed innumerable souls, the other filled innumerable graves. You speak boldly for a woman whose life was spent amongst pious slogans, Hitler retorted. Mother smiled sweetly. I built networks and fought battles and endured pain and trusted God's providence, and I loved Jesus through all of it. And she continued, You worshipped force because you feared Christ's truth. I feared nothing, Hitler replied. Of course you did, she said. You feared weakness and limits and aging and frailty and prayer and repentance, and even the survival of the Jews. But most of all, you feared the judgment of God. The shadows around Hitler started to tremble. He saw a synagogue burning, and a priest dragged down stone steps, and a camp gate, and his own face on innumerable posters. And he turned toward her. My work gave broken Europe meaning. She replied, Your work gave wounded souls a God made in their own rage. You took humiliation, fermented it into idolatry, and had Europe worship you. Hitler answered coldly, Faith breeds passivity. Mother Angelica responded joyfully, Faith is most alive often when everything feels dark. That is when you choose to believe that God is there, even when you cannot see him or feel him. That kind of faith pleases God the most, because it is pure trust. That is strength. He stared at her. Darkness taught me far more than trust in God did. Darkness taught you how to become a servant of death, she said. Trust teaches the soul how to live. Your Christ glorified suffering, Hitler said. And she replied, He transfigured suffering. You inflicted suffering because you had no answer to it. My Christ entered suffering and broke it open from within. She came nearer to Hitler. No, the central fact of history, because you despised that fact. You despised the cross. And because you despised the cross, you never learned to love. And because you never learned to love, power became your drug. So let me say it exactly as I said it on earth. Holiness is not for wimps, and the cross is not negotiable, sweetheart. It's a requirement. A strange expression crossed Hitler's face. You think pain ennobles. She answered, I think love offered through pain sanctifies. You thought pain imposed upon others purified the world, and therein lies your sickness. The darkness flashed again. Hitler now saw columns of soldiers advancing through snow and smoke rising over Europe. And he spoke softly. Nations demand sacrifice of blood. She answered with cutting tenderness, "You always demanded sacrifice. From everybody else, never from yourself." And then she looked straight into him. "Tell me, did any face ever return to your memory in the late hours? Any child, any mother, any old rabbi, any seminarian, any family on those trains?" And he answered with sudden violence, "They were obstacles to my goal." "And there it is," she said, "the shrunken creed of hell." And his voice rose sharply, "Compassion ruins civilization." Mother replied, "The Sacred Heart built civilization. The heart of Jesus is compassionate and understanding. It has felt the sting of ingratitude, and when my heart suffers from that same offense, I can turn to him, and he understands my feelings. You knew nothing of that heart." The darkness pressed in around Hitler, and somewhere far off there sounded marching boots and funeral bells and the sobbing of unseen multitudes, and for the first time Hitler looked troubled. "Why am I still hearing them?" She replied, "Because souls cannot be forgotten. They remain." And he whispered, "Time and my armies should have swallowed them all." And she replied, "Time answers to God alone." He lifted his gaze from the darkness to the place from which she had come. And he said, "And so your God sent you for this?" She answered, "He permitted me to come as a grace. I came because even now mercy is seeking you." He laughed sarcastically. "Mercy, after all this?" And she said, "Yes, after all this. You spent your life teaching millions to adore your will. Heaven is still based on the older language of God's love." And she paused. "Every Christian who strives for holiness of life experiences dryness of the soul. To most people, it's a heart-rending experience. It's a paradox. The soul becomes confused when it realizes that the harder it strives, the further away Jesus seems to be. I knew that dryness. I knew that pain. I knew what it was to keep going, even when heaven seemed hidden, because I knew where I had to go. Jesus asks me to go to him when I am overburdened. He did not promise to take away those burdens. I must carry mine as he carried his." Hitler frowned. "So you welcomed burdens?" And she answered, "I welcomed Christ." That changed everything. And he became still. "What if I refuse your Christ even now?" And she held his gaze with that quiet power she tends to have. "Then you keep your little kingdom of smoke. You keep it for yourself." And he said, "And if I regret nothing?" She responded, "Then sorrow cannot heal what your pride keeps poisoning within you." He looked around the darkness once again, and it was now a wasteland, churning with broken scenes from the Third Reich. Crowds were saluting, chimneys were burning, the bunker door was closing in on him. And he declared, "This place obeys me." And Mother Angelica laughed. "Sweetheart, this place is what obedience to self becomes." And he clenched his fists. "I was obeyed by multitudes." She responded, "Yeah, sure, for a season, by frightened men and by mobs. But listen to me now. Sometimes my worst day, one filled with pain and suffering, in the eyes of God, is my best day, if I've borne it cheerfully and I've borne it with love. One hidden saint living that truth has more greatness than your entire empire drunk on blood." Hitler muttered angrily, "Saints never move history." But she answered, "And that's why saints change history." And for one instant, Christ beckoned her back, and Hitler remained in the dim country of his obstinance, surrounded by the echoes of his own crumbling empire, embracing the darkness that engulfed him. Stay tuned, I'm Marcus Peter.